guys, last one was the most recent one, which was different perspectives on the possibilities for resource use and then also the circular economy. So I did try to read the article about the population bomb and how people originally thought that we were going to run out of resources as our population grew. There's also a crash course world history video I have if you want to check that out to learn a little bit more. We're looking at Ehrlich's central argument. What are some examples that support it and refute it? So first view was the negative view or the pessimistic view of Thomas Malthus and the Club for Growth, or the Club of Rome, the limits to growth model. So basically the idea here was that there's an optimum size of the population. Food is going to increase at an arithmetic rate, whereas population is going to increase at an exponential rate. And eventually your population will surpass your food supply and your other natural resources supply as well. So eventually population reaches carrying capacity. So carrying capacity is the ability for a set of natural resources to support a population. And there it is right there, especially food. Also, it's why economics is called the dismal science. There's also the Neo-Malthusians. They're also called the limit of growth model or the Club of Rome. In 1970, they studied this and they found that not only is it food, but you're gonna have some other in population, but there's some other factors that are gonna limit growth on the planet. They also added in agricultural production, the natural resource availability, industrial production, and pollution. And eventually what you're gonna see is you're going to see the resources start to decline as the output increases, the population increases, and the food increases, and eventually it's all going to kind of like basically not work itself out, but eventually food output population will grow exponentially until diminishing natural resources force a slowdown. So basically what they're looking at here is that not that you're going to like have a population die out necessarily, but there's going to have to be a vast slowdown in the growth of industrial output, food, pollution, the economy, things like that. It's going to have to simplify. Esther Boserup, you can also watch Bill Gates talk about it too. But whoopsie. Basically, the argument here was that technological resources to meet the demands placed upon carrying capacity will outstrip the issues of population growth and resource depletion. So agricultural land is being used up. We'll have new strategies to maintain and replenish the soil. We'll have more efficient farming. We'll have genetically modified crops that can grow more heartily. We will have different systems of irrigation. We will eventually end up with like new energy sources. So all of those types of things would be things that would fall into that. So they believe that new technology will help the adjustment for what's needed for continuing population demands. And then finally, the concept of resource stewardship, which is kind of like, what do we do about this? We're kind of taking some of the positive aspects and the negative outlook, kind of melding them together and saying like, if we want to fix this, what's going to end up happening? It's kind of this idea that eventually you'll have an overshoot and a little bit of a correction. So what we want to do is use resources in a way that will make them available for future generations. This is often called sustainability or sustainable practice. It's kind of a combination of environmental sustainability and then also social equity, make sure people get what they need and the environment is treated well at the same time. So commonly, it's an issue of global commons resources. This is the high seas, Antarctica, atmosphere, and outer space. So when we talk about common resources, how are we being good, quote unquote, stewards? It's like someone that takes care of or a caretaker of those resources so that we will have them available in the future. So the tragedy of the commons is a concept where that resource is not owned, but it's held in common and it's more likely to be exploited, kind of like air pollution. And these are kind of some examples of thinking about how are we going to be more sustainable in the future and what technology do we need, what resources are becoming limited, what are some common resources that we have to deal with. And then one of the big possible solutions to this is the circular economy. So I watched this video about circular economy, but the basic concept is we preserve natural capacity, so the resources, we optimize or most efficiently use those resources, and then we reduce loss by managing the stocks of those resources. So typically what happens is you have, resources that when they are used, the byproduct of that production is then fed back into the system so that it can be reused again as a resource and then can create other products or the same product. Same thing with waste. We would try to find ways to use the waste. Whoops, my light just went off. Use the waste in a productive way so that it can be fed back into the economy, whether that's through composting or recycling or something related to repurposing something, and avoiding what's called negative externalities, which are things that are operating outside of the production, the actual satisfaction you get from a good or service, that are causing issues with society. Here's some common practices: composting biological resources, repeated use of artificial materials, finding renewable energies. Those are all common. Here's the diagram. You got a linear economy and how that works out. What most places have is a reuse economy where some stuff is recycled, but here we're talking about a circular economy where everything is kind of fed back into the system as much as possible. So you looked at 3 examples of that at different scales. You researched them yourself. You picked out which ones you wanted to look at. And then we, on the day of the test, will watch a video of the Netherlands and what they're doing at a national scale. There they are again. And we didn't talk about UN Sustainable Development, so we will talk about that later. So those are the big concepts overall. Again, 3 big topics. You can be asked about any of it. That's kind of it in a nutshell. What I would do is go through and look at, sorry about that, what are the things I need case studies of, and what are things that I need more. So for example, implications of global climate change for the nexus in 2 countries. Make sure you have 2 countries that you can talk about some examples of. Evaluating the circular economy, like, you're going to need to know some case studies for that. So using some specific examples. This is more of like a descriptive approach, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. All right, so that's that. Let me know if you have any questions. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to smash that like button. Keep those likes higher, those dislikes. All right, you guys are going to do fine. You're geographers, whether you like it or not. So take care. We'll talk to you later.